It is my pleasure to present to you the institute that will go with you in your leadership journey. Many of the problems that we have today is because of leadership. And therefore, I thought I should bring to you a platform where you can learn, you can begin your leadership journey to learn and understand what the 20th century leadership requires. Now, the Leadership Institute that I have put together will bring to you an amazing material, world-class information and techniques and knowledge that will help you through your leadership journey. I want to take this opportunity to introduce myself very quickly and also begin our session this evening. We have over 60 people registered for this webinar, and that's a great turn-up. I think some people will be joining as we go. My name is Peter Bujari. I am the moderator for the session today. And today we are going to discuss and share some insights around the 21st century leadership that is needed. And I want to quickly say that we have challenges now that we never had before. And so the leaders that we have today have to really possess certain qualities that allows them to navigate through the complexities that we see today. And so we put together this webinar to share some insights and tools that leaders like you guys may use to navigate through the complexities and ambiguities that comes up with the technology and development that we see. I am privileged today to be a moderator for this very important session. And with me, I'm going to have the main speaker, Dr. Bobby John, and I'm going to have two panelists with me, Dr. Florence Temu and Professor Faris Mujinja. Dr. Bobby John is a medical doctor, and I have had privilege to work with him for the last 7 years. He's an amazing guy, and he will briefly tell you more about himself. And David, please allow him to share the slides when time is due. Very quickly, if I was to quickly talk some words about him, he started working in the army and he stepped out to work with the vulnerable people in India. And he is the director and founder of the Global Health Advocates in India. And he also currently is the executive director of Equitas Consulting in India. Dr. Bobby served as a board of Global Fund as the delegate and also the chair of the ethics committee. And he also worked with as an advocate and public officer in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in India. It is my pleasure now to welcome Dr. Bobby John to share with us his insights and tools that he feels that the 21st leadership requires, or a 21st leader requires to optimally and exploit what is needed. Dr. Bobby John, it is now your turn.
Dr. Bajari, thank you so much for your very kind words and for the invitation and the privilege that you have extended to me to be here with each one of you this evening. For my colleagues, Professor Majendra, Dr. Temu, thank you so much for your generosity to allow me to be speaking before you. It is indeed a great privilege. And for every one of you who has joined in this evening, you haven't come here just because you've got spare time. I believe that you have chosen to be here. You have voted with your time, and I hope that I and my colleagues, Professor Majendra and Dr. Temu, along with Dr. Bajari, would be able to provide you with some things that you can think about, not just during the course of the next 1 hour, but also would be useful to frame your own thinking as you lead and serve wherever you are placed. I do have a couple of slides. They are not for, how should I say, reading through. In fact, there are barely 5 or 7 words per slide, but they should make you think. And I will walk my comments over the next 10 minutes or so, along with the visuals that you're seeing. And so if I have permission, David, I'm going to share my slides window. You are able to see that, and I'll put that on.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, thank you. Oftentimes the question is asked, who's the leader? What is leadership? And almost as many people as you ask, you get different kinds of answers. All I can say is, by way of beginning this conversation, that leaders and leadership are standout individuals and qualities. They do not allow you to blend into the ordinary. You may be part of an ordinary setting, but the way you act, the way you engage sets you out from the ordinary and points out you in a different light. Like the individual here on whom there is a different light compared to everyone else in that graphic. It also indicates that there is a place and a role for these individuals to make a break with the ordinary. If you continue doing the things as they are, well, you're no different from everybody else. But when you stop doing things the way they are usually done, you make a break with that, somewhat represented by this big gash across this slide, you will find yourself being perceived differently. Indeed, your behavior itself is different. What qualifies me to say these things in introduction? That's my name. I come from the southern tip of India, which is the world's largest country, 1.42 billion people on this planet. And I'm just one tiny little individual. Most of my life was spent in the 20th century. And unless one of you here decides that you have a breakthrough way of making people live long, I will die in the 21st century. How long more in the 21st century I have? Public health professionals and leaders like Professor Vijay can draw out the mortality tables and tell me how much more time I've got left. But here's what I understand, and here's what I want to communicate with you. The 20th century, where I was born, where I did my schooling, where I trained as a doctor, where I started working, and understood the challenges of delivering healthcare or community services is not the century I live in. The world has changed dramatically. In fact, back in the 20th century, since now that we are almost a quarter century into the new one, back in the old century, we used to say the most uncommon of senses is common sense. And somebody who was remarkable, or somebody who did appropriate things, or somebody who showed signs of leadership, showed signs of an abundance of common sense. Of course, now we are in the 21st century, and people seem to be relying ever more on artificial intelligence, and people seem to think that that's the way the rest of the century is going to be pointed. Let me, at the first outset itself, remind you that no matter what technological advances take place, advancements in computing and AI technologies will come to pass before our eyes, and we use them to greater good or benefit of mankind. There will be no replacement. There will be no replacement for common sense. And if you don't possess that in an uncommon measure, you can forget being a leader. Because you see, everybody who will possess a phone or who has the ability to buy a phone or a computer will also have access to the same amount of computing and artificial intelligence as the next person, which means everybody will be at the same level in the crowd, the commons. What will still mark out the leader is someone who is uncommonly gifted with common sense. There is an old saying, where is the wisdom that we have lost in knowledge, and where is the knowledge that we have lost in information? If the tail end of the 20th century was the rise of the information age, and the beginnings of this century is the rise of the artificial intelligence age, I have to only go back to that ditty. Where have we lost wisdom in the accumulation of knowledge? And where have we lost personal understanding and knowledge in this ocean of information? The world needs leaders. There's no doubt about it. Many think they are leaders. My simple point is this: most people who set themselves as leaders are essentially followers pretending to be leaders. What makes me say this? I know that some of you may be able to see that there's a bunch of books behind me. Many people read up books on leadership. They read the Harvard Business Review. They look up the latest trends and articles and research on, and then they say, these 4 things are attractive, let me do them. Let me wear the suit like so-and-so does. Let me speak like this other person does. Let me make my slides in the manner that somebody else does. And let me behave in restaurants like so-and-so else does. And putting this composite together makes them think that they are now fulfilling a certain persona of being a leader. That is not true. Leaders are people who will be found where there is a problem. If there is no problem, you don't need a leader. Everybody can go home and stay in peace. But when things are not going right, and it doesn't have to be a major problem, It just has to be the presence of a lack of well-functioning. It could be at home, it could be at workplace, it could be in the community, it could be in nations, it could be between nations, it could be in corporations, wherever that situation is. If things are not going well, there needs to be somebody who will step in and make it right once again. Now, usually you think that would be the chief executive officer. That is only a title. The problem solver, the man or the woman who will be found in the middle of the problem, appreciating the disconnect or the disjointedness in that situation, willing to pull together the pieces, often at discomfort to themselves, is the leader. Letting things go, letting things be, isn't the hallmark of a leader. The hallmark of a leader is that they will not let situations slide from bad to worse. They will reverse the trend. Which is why wearing a nice suit is fine. Having a fancy title and a good office is fine. But if that does not help reverse the trend, or if it does not make the situation better, that is mere titles. That is not leadership. And that's the reason why I say that the world, which has enough problems to be solved, needs leaders. Look around you. Every which way, whether it's a church, whether it's a community, whether it's the national parliament, every which way, there need to be people. It's a growing skill. You learn in the small, you grow up to do the big. Many people want to be the big problem solver. You know what? Just like you cannot lift a 150 kg barbell on weightlifting all at the first time, you need to practice learning to lift these smaller weights first. As you flex muscles, as you learn the techniques, as you learn your limits, you begin to lift more. And so is it with leadership.
And sorry, Bobby, to interrupt. Maybe in 2-3 minutes, you should be wrapping up.
Yes, I will. I will.
Thank you.
And so I just want to kind of point that this is where you need to be. Leaders are people who are not brands, not the ones that they wear or the ones that they project. They are the real thing. If you put your picture into this yellow frame, what will people see? The brands that you're carrying or the real you? The real thing matters way more than anything else that you can put together. This is the age of technology. You can have the fanciest tools. You can have all kinds of expensive ways of doing things. But you know what? I was trained as a physician. It didn't matter how fancy my knife and scissor was. It just mattered how well I knew how to cut so that I would deliver the appropriate surgery and healing to somebody who needed it most. Tools matter. Yes, if I didn't have a knife, I couldn't cut. Yes. But it didn't need to be a diamond handle knife. It could be a simple, ordinary one. Tools matter. But how you do it and your technique, that matters far more than what you're wielding. And the last, we can make a fetish out of innovation. Everybody talks about innovation. Put your face into this yellow frame. Are you an innovator? Working on things that can incrementally be improved? Or are you somebody who really makes a breakthrough and says, this is untenable. This way, even if I do it better, isn't really solving the problem. Can I change the thing entirely? Incremental works, breakthroughs work better. And my challenge this evening to you is this. Are you authentic? Is what you share something that is deeply personal to you, whether you wake up in the sleep or whether you're in the office? Are you the exactly same person and you behave the same ways? Are you someone who is defined by the things and the tools that you wield and carry, or do you have the ability to function even with the most rudimentary of them in situations where you might be all by yourself? And are you a person who actually looks at breakthroughs rather than work incrementally and let things go from bad to worse? Leaders of the 21st century will still be people who will be found where the problems are. There will be people with hands that may not be very, very manicured. There will be people whose knees might be scraped because they are bending down and helping somebody being picked up from the ground. That's what leaders are. They may be found in the front, they may be found in the middle, they may be found at the back, doesn't matter. Titles will not define a leader. The leader will be defined by the problems they address themselves to. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you, Bobby. Again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. So he basically says leaders are problem solver. And he says leaders is not the title, is not the suit that you put on. And says leadership is about solving problems. Once you see problems, you can't keep quiet as a leader. And he says there are many problems around us everywhere. There are problems. And so where are the leaders? If there are problems everywhere, where are the problems? As you come later, I will ask you a question, Bobby, but let me continue at this point in time to introduce Professor Faris Mjinja. Professor Faris Mjinja is actually my teacher several years back. And I want to say it's my pleasure to introduce to him as a professor of economics and strategic management at Muhimbili University. And he brings with him to share with us over 35 years of experience in teaching. Professor Mjinja, you work in a university tertiary institution, and we're talking about 21st century leadership qualities that are needed. Could you share with us some insights? What do you think is the role of the higher learning institutions into shaping leaders, into shaping and preparing people to be leaders of 21st century? Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bujari, for inviting me for this discussion. And I think you have already introduced me without ado and wasting time, putting so many words, being in a high learning institution for 38 years as a teacher. I think I've either produced or not produced leaders. But in the higher learning institutions, we receive students from lower level institutions. Now, it's my belief that leaders who are problem solvers, they should be, or they are, being cooked from below. That how do you, I agree totally with Bob that we need somebody who can solve a problem. And that is when, now solving a problem is not claiming how to solve a problem. And the problem we have had is that, especially these days, that students, they are taught how to claim answers and answer the examination, and they get an A. And they proceed to higher level And surprisingly, at the end of the semester, the student gets a C, and the parents said, wow, this guy has been getting A's all the time. Why? Because this person, to some extent, was taught how to claim answers and pass the exam, and not how to solve problems, and not how to reason logically, and not how to critically think. Now, higher learning institutions are supposed to come up with problem solvers, and the problem solvers who are critical thinkers. Why in the 21st century we're talking about that is because of the problems that we have. The problem of the world is changing so fast and it's so dynamic, and the climate is changing so fast. The global economy and the markets are changing. They are not the same as they used to in the 20th century. The policies are also changing. The public-private partnership is not the same as it used to be. The nature of the jobs and even the work arrangements have actually changed. Now you can work from home. When I started working, there was no way I could work from home. I had to come to the office and work from the office. Now, you look at how things have changed, even the work arrangement. Somebody can work is in here, and it can be working in a distant place, working in India while he's actually supervised or is actually delegated from a person who is working in Tanzania. So all these, and even if you look at even in the industries, that the manufacturing sectors now have all changed in order to be service industries instead of manufacturing industries. Why? Because of the nature of the economy and the things, how the world is dynamically changing. Now, for that, in order for the high institutions to sound as institutions that are there to try, they're not, I would not say they're producing leaders, but to foster the leadership skills that and generate people who have incremental thinking in terms of giving them solving the problems. Then we need people who have the ability to be able, with the technologies that is changing, as Bobby said, with the technology that you're working with, then we need the people who can manage, who can lead people in technology, who can solve problems that are in the population, but these problems are also sometimes brought up by technology and sometimes solved by the technology. And how can this person combine these two things and work in it? A person who can use information, ability to communicate and use information to solve problems. A person who can work with different diverse people or diverse teams together and solve a problem, because we are all looking at solving a problem because we need results. We are all in result-based world, that what we need is good result, better result, good quality result, so that we can develop. So we need leaders who can take us to that angle of result-based thinking, and that based who could give us outcomes. Now, for that matter, therefore, higher learning institutions, we need to have to change to the 21st century now. Instead of just talking about or looking at our master subjects, that if I'm a health economist, then it's just health economics, and that's what I know, mastery. But how do I use health economics to solve a problem? How do I use, within health economics, how do I critically think and solve a problem that is in the community or in society? So we need those social skills, adaptability and flexibility inside of this. So universities, they have this duty of producing.
Sorry to interrupt, Professor Mjinja, if you'll be finishing 2 minutes, please.
Yes, definitely. We need people who can think strategically. We need people, universities have to make people who can think critically, who are problem solvers, people who can communicate, people who can are technologically literate, people who are organizational, who can be collaborative in working, and people who are innovative and creative inside to have make people good leaders who can lead this society, which is facing ambiguity into the market, facing volatility, facing uncertainty, and also facing a number of things that are very complex, and those which create problems to the populations and to whoever we are working with or whoever we are trying to work together with. So that matter, therefore, the universities, I mean, high learning institutions, they have to change. Not only teaching the master subjects, but within those master subjects, how do we include the 21st strategies, the 21st leadership skills in terms of problem solving, critical thinking, communication, technology, innovation, collaborative working, so that we can be able to make people be able to have the skills to solve and adapt situations where they are, and to take their roles and responsibilities in solving problems.
Thank you very much.
Dr.
Thank you very much, Professor Mjinja. So the high learning institutions need to think about how the sociology, the health economics, the medicine, how do they solve the problems that the neighbor or they also have. The key thing looks like a cross-cutting theme is that leaders have to solve problems. They don't have to pass exams, but they have to solve problems. And when Bobby, our main speaker, alluded to that, we have many problems around us. And so we need to be thinking, how do we really solve our own problems and our own challenges? Let me go to the second panelist, Dr. Florence Temu. Dr. Florence Temu is the country director for Amref Health Africa in Tanzania. And she has been on that position for about 7 years now. And before that, she worked with Amref Health in Ethiopia. And Dr. Florence Temu has worked a number of other programs in the health sector, but she has also gone through a number of leadership programs. I wish not to mention all, but a number of leadership programs. And she has done an amazing job, one of the leading organizations in Tanzania in the public health sector and many other. And I can't wait to get her wisdom in this session today. Dr. Florence Temu, it's my pleasure now to welcome you to share your insight. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bujari, and pleasure meeting all of you, and also hearing from Bob and Faris. I get more, I learn as well. So I think I'll just want to hit on the area of how volatile and complex the environment is. And we can talk about anything we're doing is a business, and not necessarily that's been commercial, but whatever you're doing is your business. And whatever you're doing, there's a supply part that they have to supply to you, or the market that you have to deal with. And that means it all depends on the nature of the activity that we're engaged. But we need to realize the world is very volatile, as the previous speakers said, but also the complexity that goes on the environment that we're working with, but also with the advancement in technologies. We have heard what Mujinja was saying, but also this also brings in a lot of regulatory changes that in whatever industry that we are in, there must be rapid technology progress, but also use of artificial intelligence we have seen nowadays, and also digitalization of matters, automation, electrification, everything you have to really move very fast with change in your industry, let alone the geopolitical events that we keep seeing in our working area, whether your industry is health, agriculture, whatever, wherever you are. And then you have to adapt with the regulatory changes that we can have a policy that lived maybe 10 years ago, but really outdated. So we need to have a quick change in regulatory procedures and policies to really adapt to the changes in the society. And we see this in all the trends, economic trends, but also environment, the climate change, etc. And the landscape becomes very competitive with the increased life expectancy, but also with a high number of young people coming up, a lot of professionals in this world. That means we need to also adjust a number of ways that we get into the labor industry, but also in whatever activity that we think. We are so used to get employed, but nowadays it's no longer about employment, it's about self-employment. It's no longer about people looking for you, but we have to look for people. So, and even the job is not looking for you, you are the one to look for the job, maybe to create a job. So talking about leadership, there's about self-leadership, and there's about leading others, and also leading organization, institution, whatever you create. So how good are you at self-leadership? How good are you about leading others and also leading the institution? Because at each point, you need the other component as well. Whether you lead the institution, you need the self-leadership and leading others. If you're leading yourself, you need to see how you're leading others or leading institutions. So it all intermingles in between. And this also goes with a change, how fast the world is going. You can see there's a study that was done in 2019 by McKinsey, where 92% of the executives say the business environment in the industry becoming more complex in the past 5 years. And these are experienced executives, but they're seeing the complexity. What about the new ones who are coming into the play? So we should realize and agree that things are changing very fast. And even in the sector that I am in the health and medical industry, we also need to see how quick we adjust and put regulatory frameworks very fast to adapt to the complexity and uncertainties, and the modification also in our health policies, drugs, procedures. There are a lot of technology that's coming in the medical industry. Some of us who went through training years ago, we cannot even go back easily now, because there are people quite advanced knowledge now, and people have to move very fast and adapt to that knowledge. You see, there's telemedicine, someone sitting in India where Bobby is, but treating somebody where I am in Tanzania, and yet becomes of high standard and quality. How do we adapt our training to fit into that? And the electronic health records, no longer about manual records, but we have to go digital. You have to adapt to the knowledge. You have to use artificial intelligence-driven diagnostic equipment, all transformed industry all together in the healthcare and service delivery. So even the patients' expectations have changed, because now patients, they come to you with a diagnosis. They go to the Dr. Google, they have everything, and they just listen to you as a doctor. But patients are more, the knowledge is now at their palms. They can actually look at the technology, how much the technology has advanced, access to information, and also demographic has changed. People are learned nowadays. It's not the time that when so many people are ignorant, but now the population of people who are more knowledgeable is there. So we are dealing with intelligent patients. It's not about those who are totally ignorant. Well, the world is very diverse. It's not the same in the third world and the advanced world. So each context has its own way of doing that. And as the science advances, also those the so-called, and we may call them maybe traditional or local, whatever kind of alternative medicines, also advancing as well. So each side of health side is also advanced because of the dynamic that we're seeing. Also, the payment model in the health sector, talking about financial risk sharing, these are kind of things that we are not, different arrangement with different period of time. So what is this as an implication? You can also see with the coming with the change in the pandemics and public health emergencies, all these things bring new way of thinking. So what kind of leadership do we need in such situation? And what's the implication that brings up? And that's where there's a concept of transformational leadership that comes in, because we need to be very, very flexible and adapting to the changes and be ready to, it's no longer about I am the leader, but we have to lead together. And actually it's about being more visionary in thinking and allowing new ideas and allowing others to challenge the status quo. So adaptability and flexibility is very important. So I'll start. Visionary thinking is very important. Adaptability and flexibility is very important, but also emotional intelligence in leadership. You have to have high degree of emotional intelligence, understanding about self, and have empathy about others, but also how to control emotions with changes and facing a situation that you have to foster them to turn, where challenges turn into positive. You look at challenges as opportunities, how to turn that around. But we need to foster collaboration and networking, because no one knows it all and everybody has its area. So I think also need to promote morals and ethics in our practices, and maximize digital literacy, as you know, the digital world is becoming even more stronger. So there are quite a number of areas we need to look, so that to make sure that we have resilient kind of leadership, and have continue learning long term. Each time you keep learning. So there's a lot to talk.
1 minute.
Time is very little. So I'll just conclude that leaders, we have to have that diverse kind of leadership. I mean, diversity, allow the diversity, learning, and also be flexible with a changing and dynamic world. Thank you.
Interesting.
I'll stop there.
Interesting. Thank you, Dr. Florence Tem. So I can't paraphrase what you said, but you presented very powerful areas that I quickly want to allude to. One is you say there's a self leadership, which means if I am a leader, I should be able to lead myself. And then you say I should be able to lead others in a small group or something like that. We call that meso level of leadership. And then you say institution, which is the macro level or type of leadership. I mean, very few things also you also say, and I want to quickly highlight them just in case somebody didn't get them. Emotional intelligence, being able to regulate and feel what others feel. And transformational leadership, being able to allow your colleagues to lead together, challenge the status quo. You know, these are very important things, that qualities that leaders of 21st century need. I want to thank Bobby. Thank you, Professor Mjinja. Thank you, Dr. Tem, for sharing with us your tools and insight about the 21st leadership qualities that are required. I wish to open up a session for question and answers. Feel free to unmute your mic or raise up your hand or type the question in the chat if you want. We'll be looking at all those. We have limited time, but we'll try as much as possible to respond to the questions as they come. So we got like 15-20 minutes for the question and answers. Please tell us, what do you think about the presentation? Did you learn something? Do you have any specific question? You can ask a general question, or you can ask a specific question to any of the presenter. Welcome. You can type your question, you can mute yourself and speak, or you can make some additions also. We're all learning together. As you think about the question, I wish to call somebody who also facilitates courses at Bujari High Impact Leadership Institute. Professor Zablon Mtongu, I know you. You are from Nairobi. Professor Mtongu, do you have any addition to the presentation that has been made? I can see you online if you hear me. I think he's away. Any question? Anybody with a question? Maybe we'll come later. Anybody with a question, please? Any area you want some clarification? Everin says, thank you for the panel, for the great discussion on leadership. I would like to ask a general question. How much does leadership go hand in hand with intelligence? How much does leadership go hand in hand with intelligence? So there's a participant asked that question. As we wait for other questions, feel free to take up the questions as they come so that we do not waste our precious time. So her question is, how much does leadership goes hand in hand with intelligence? And the second question, just in case you want to take, I like the statement that followers pretending to be a leader. Maybe Bobby can share more examples. Okay. So there's a general question. You can take the general question, and Bobby, you have a question there. Who want to take the first one, or Bobby, you want to take all of them?
Yeah, I'll just start, and I'll allow for both Professor and Dr. Timo to add on. Very quickly, let me take the second first, and then I'll go to the first one. Look around you, look to all the people that you think are leaders, and just check on where they are found. Are they found in the middle of engaging and creating solutions, or are they found finding someone to blame for the situation that is around? And if you find the former, you found a leader. If you haven't found the former, keep searching for the one who's helping engage with a solution. People who shift the blame to others and do not engage with the solution are usually not leaders. They will be followers looking for a title for themselves. And that should get you far more examples than what I can kind of give you right now. To the first question, that's an important one. How do you measure intelligence? That's something that has been a question for me since my college days. And here's the thing. Leaders are very, very intelligent people. They may not be specifically knowledgeable about the area that you have. I mean, if you ask a carpenter to solve something in plumbing, that's going to be tough. But could the carpenter understand the problem and say, this is not my area of expertise, but let's go and figure how to solve this and find where the appropriate resources are? You have found someone who you can trust. If the carpenter decided to solve that by themselves, you have an overconfident person, likely to end up in a disaster all sides. What you want is people who can understand, empathize, and connect in walking with you to a solution. If they have the requisite technical skills, great. And so that's why I would kind of take that word intelligence very, very carefully. You need the people with the emotional connect, the ability to empathize, and where they find themselves deficient in the techniques and the tools for providing the solution, they're able to point to somebody better than themselves. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Bobby. Colleagues, do you want to add something? Dr. Tim, Professor Mjinja, any?
Yeah, I would say that, especially for the question that asked you that leadership goes with intelligence, it means what my answer would be very simple. That depends how you measure intelligence. Because there are people, if you measure intelligence in terms of passing exams, then that is not the right way to look at it, because we have had elders who had never went to school, but they're very good leaders, and they are solving community problems, and they are actually solving community problems more than the PhD guys, right? So I don't know how she measures intelligence, but we are saying that in general terms, that we don't compare intelligence and leadership, because it depends on the problem that is aforehead, and it depends in which area. If somebody's professional, then you can measure intelligence there. But if it's a general societal problem, which can be solved by people who just have wisdom, people who can think, because being a leader, it also involves thinking creatively, thinking creative to solve that problem, be able to communicate well, be able to be positive to others, not only waiting for people to say important things to you, but also the bad things that you can change them into opportunities. So that is leadership. So it depends. So some people may say is clever, but I don't think either clever or smart, but somebody who can think critically and not necessarily measuring intelligence in terms of books and exams, somebody who can handle situations and be able to adapt flexibly and solve the problem in society.
Dr. Tem?
Yeah, I can comment on that as well. And there's some more questions coming in. But I think intelligence, I'll take it like they talk about 3 I's: intelligence, but also integrity and influence. A leader has to have, wants to be a comprehensive leader with the intelligence, you should also go with integrity as well, and influence. If you miss one and get the others, you find a leader who is quite influential but no integrity, you can tell what will happen. And when and we may have a lot of integrity but no influence, no intelligence, I think that's also, I cannot represent a leader there. So I think it's something you need to balance. As a professor said, does not go with a high level of education, but really what you really take. How do we influence? How do we make things happen? How do we work through people to make things happen? That's really about leadership. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, the main presenter, Dr. Bobby, said a leader is the one who engages in solving problems, engages the colleagues, the peer, the community into solving the problems at hand. That was his definition of a leader. There are a couple of questions still here, and I want to quickly go through some, and we'll take up some. So I think this is mine. I don't know, but somebody says we have very few leadership institutes in Tanzania. Bill and the Uongozi Institute, to mention a few. How do we reach those who don't have access to empower them with the leadership skills? Well, it's a journey. It's a journey. We're starting, but I think the way I look at things, I think leadership is going to be taking a new form in the coming years. There are many challenges that we need to think differently than we did think in the last 20 years, for instance. So I think it's a journey. We're starting. But more important, I think somebody says, I think we'll come to this question a little later, but somebody says, how do you, what are the important steps to a person to take to guide themselves, to be able to manage and guide themselves without exchanging thoughts with the others? So anybody who can respond to that, I want to read all the questions. How do you advise this person? What important steps to take to be able to guide and manage myself? And then somebody says, Ernest, Dr. Bobby, Professor Mjinja, Dr. Florence, what advice would you give to emerging leaders who aspire to make significant impact in the 21st century? So please take up that. How do you advise emerging leaders who aspire to make a significant impact in the 21st century? And then this is an interesting one. How do you respond? Do you respond to criticism as a leader? I think Dr. Florence mentioned something related to this one, but to also take it and make some comments again. We probably have about 10 minutes to time. Please take up the questions as you wish, and let's go. Who wants to take which one?
I'll take. Let me start with the last one.
Okay.
In terms of taking criticisms, that taking criticism is one item within wisdom. That because we are human beings, you can make we are little bit make mistakes. So if I mean, and also probably reason beyond what others would think through, and they definitely get to think. People sometimes people don't understand what you are saying as a leader. So you must take everything positively. And a good leader is somebody who takes things positively, even things that are criticism. Why don't you use those criticisms to be opportunities for you to develop more leadership skills rather than saying no, 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 no? So criticisms are a good leader, an intelligent leader will accept and use those criticisms for solving problems, for solving problems in society or for himself.
Wonderful. So some scholars in leadership says a 21st leader needs to see opportunity in every challenge. In everything that comes in front of you, look at that as an opportunity to do something. Okay? Next. Who wants to come next?
Which question should we pick?
So let me quickly review them again. So number one is
I think there's a
There's so
question
many
about
questions, eh?
how do you advise the emerging leaders? Maybe I can
Yeah.
bring it up. Yeah, I
Yes.
think the good thing is if you the fact that you are emerging leader, you have already put an interest there. So there's an interest, and there's an issue to do about self-awareness, about what is leadership and how are you positioned. Basically, there are so many types of leadership. You can decide to become a dictator, still a leader. But if you want to go in a leadership that want to bring changes, transformational leadership will be one of the process where you actually engage. So I think it's a matter of building up on your interest of becoming a leader, and be a leader who allows criticism, it has been said, but also learning. And also, flexible and adaptive, that you go with the changing, that the way environment change, you're ready to adapt, and resilient at the same time. When despite the challenge that comes, you're ready to see how to go on the solving side rather than the complainer. So a leader doesn't sit down and keep complaining, but looks at how to solve and adapt in situation and influencing others as well. So it's a process that we need to define and become mindful about it, that I want to do this deliberately. Thank you.
Great. I see Dr. Bobby is chatting in the chat box. So some responses are in the chat box. So you can also check there for the interest of time that we have. There's an interesting one here that I would like to quickly touch base on. And it says, I just lost it now. Okay. So it says something from Catherine. It says leadership involves character, relationship, knowledge, intuition, experience, past success, ability. And then she says, how can one develop these qualities as a young leader? Maybe we'll probably close on this one. Dr. Bobby, would you like to share some insights on this one?
Thank you. Yes, I have tried to address a few questions on the chat box. You can look at them, and there's much more that can be unpacked. But Catherine, yes, if you don't have character to start with, the base material for leadership, little else matters. I mean, integrity, which Dr. Florence alluded to in the 3 I's, is absolutely essential. If you're not a person of integrity, if you don't have a strong character, your ability to be authentic, your ability to be empathetic, your ability to be responsive, all of them are going to be, how should I say, compromised. Knowledge is a matter of training. And I've said it in a couple of chats. Learn all the time from all kinds of situations. You never know when it will come in handy. It's like this that I tell some people. A deck of cards is 52 cards, and you have a deck of cards in your pocket. There's a game going on somewhere or the other. Wherever you turn up, you have a card to play with. your deck should always be complete and more, so that when the opportunity presents itself, you have something. Now, almost always you don't have a card. Sometimes you think you need to be thoughtful. Quick actions alone do not make a good leader. Thoughtful actions that may be quick marks out a truly good one. And the last question, I do want to kind of pick it up. Some of us are older people here. When somebody young comes along, and this is Hilda, your question to turn right, we should be prepared to recognize that there are people better than us coming on our footsteps. And we should make way gracefully. Too often the problem is people who think they have arrived and they are not prepared to travel any further. They become a stumbling block to everyone else behind them. And I hope I don't do that to those that are following in my footsteps, that I will recognize that there are better, younger people who will go further along in the journey in the 21st century, where I definitely will die, and they might actually outlive me and go on to the 22nd. Thank you, Dr. Bujari, for everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Bobby. It's almost time, and I was calling up Professor Zablon Mtongu from Nairobi, and I think he wasn't hearing. Professor Mtongu, we are almost done, but I wanted to hear your wisdom on this one. Any wisdom, if I gave you 30 seconds, any wisdom would you want to share before we wrap up?
Thank you, Daktari. I want to say that the webinar is very, very encouraging, and I hope our colleagues have learned from it. I really appreciate this area of leadership because it's my expertise area, and I was enjoying the presenter and the respondents when they were talking about leadership and integrity, the definition of leadership. And I like Bobby's approach, which is a very, very simple approach, which helps people to understand what leadership is all about. My take about leadership is what Florence said at some level, that any leadership that does not have integrity, then it's not worthy to be called leadership. And leadership is not about the person, it's about the people you are preparing to take over from you. So it has to do more with mentorship and coaching, so that you are not the only one who takes over everything and continues with everything. And when you die with everything. It is supposed to be a baton that you hand over to people who will continue the legacy of the institution that you are leading. Thank you very much.
Very interesting indeed. So let me say that this is a wonderful session, and our next webinar next month is going to be on developing leadership brand. And I saw Bobby started that conversation. So we're going to be, discussing how do you develop and maintain leadership brand. And this is very important for current and future leaders. So those who asked how do you help build leaders of today and tomorrow, we committed to continue sharing the insights and tools for leaders of today, leaders of tomorrow. And so next month webinar, please sign up when the notification comes on. I want to take this opportunity to thank you from the deep of my heart for sparing time to come and learn together and share and share and share. This is a very important opportunity to learn together. I want to say thank you to Bobby for making time. I know you have so many meetings, but you made this a priority. Thank you so much. And also, Professor Mjinja, you should be at home now. Thank you again for continued support in this institute. And Dr. Florence Tem, thank you again. I know you're very busy. Dr. Florence Tem, is one of the ladies that I admire for her innovation. She does this, and then you see this, and this, and this, and this. Thank you so much for sharing the insights and experience that you have. Professor Mtongu, thank you very much. And thank you everybody who participated in this webinar. Those who are taking the results-based management, you will see the question in the discussion forum tonight. Please visit your class for discussion before the next session on Wednesday next week. Na washukuruni sana for those Kiswahili speaking. Na nawatakia, sorry, I wish this webinar would have taken 2 hours. Okay. We'll consider about that next time. Lakini nawashukuru sana, nawatakia jioni njema. Asante sana, asante sana, asante sana.
Asante na kwaheri.
Asante. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Florence, asante.
Asante.
Bye-bye.
Prof.
Bob, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Prof.